Hi, everybody. We're here to celebrate Carla Ferreira's new book and to help hold an open mic and have some friends read
Want
their
to do open
works
mic?
for us.
You should read.
It sounds like it, but I'm not doing it.
Read something.
Muting people as they come in. Okay, I'm gonna start over. Hi, everybody. This is NAWP. We are, let me actually just do a little prologue on what NOP is. Last year, we got really a bad case of FOMO, and Mitch and I watched all these people talking. This is about that same time of year. Everybody's starting to talk about what their plans are, where they're going to be, what's going on for AWP. And we're like, dang it, we're teachers. We have kids. We're not going to make it. We're never going to go. We might as well just start our own club, not at AWP or NOP. And that was actually a running joke for a couple of years. And we decided let's make it a thing and let's invite people to an open mic. I think Carla was actually at that open mic and just blew everybody's minds with her frog poem, which hopefully we get to hear today. Um, and so yeah, so here we are, and almost a year later, um, we are here today to celebrate Carla Ferreira's book. Can everybody please mute as you come
Yeah,
in?
it gives that really weird effect. Like,
I don't know why everybody keeps unmuting. All right, so stay muted unless you're reading. Otherwise, we'll get started here. So Carla's gonna start us off. Let me just pull up her amazing bio. Actually, Carla, oh my God, it's just one of those nights. Carla, I'm not finding your bio. Give me 2 seconds.
It's also totally okay if you don't find it.
It's like one of those nights where I'm muting people. I'm trying to find things. I found it. All right. Carla Sofia Ferreira is the daughter of Portuguese immigrants and a teacher from Newark, New Jersey, my home state. Author of a micro chapbook, Ironbound Phaedos, from Ghost City Press in 2019, and no longer forthcoming, actually published this week. Her debut poetry book, A Geography That Does Not Hurt Us, from River Books, this year, 2024. And her poems have been nominated for the Pushcart Prize and Best of the Net. You can find her writing in The Rumpus, Glamour, Eco Theo, Underblong, OK Donkey, December, and Washington Square Review, among others. On the internet, she's at C Ferreira08 on Twitter and at CS Ferreira Writes on Instagram. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being amazing and awesome. Congratulations on this debut. I'm so excited to hear what you have to read for us. Mute me and take over, please.
Thank you so much, Jared, and thank you for asking me to headline this NOP celebration. This was such a joy to participate in last year when I was feeling a lot of FOMO over AWP. So gratitude to you, to Mitch for organizing this, to Han and Amarak, the editors of River, who have just been so incredible and helpful in their support. And then all the folks who are here tonight on a Thursday to listen to poems and to read poems. It like gives me faith in humanity that we're all here listening to poetry together on a Thursday night. So thank you. Um, so I can't believe that this is real. I'm gonna get right into the poem. So I'm gonna start with Elegy with the Zait e Pão de Ló, which is a poem that I wrote for my Tia Madalena. And it's also the poem that's blurbed on the back of the cover. So I'll begin with that one. Um, okay. Elegy with the Zait e Pão de Ló, para Tia Madalena, Tio Marcelino, Rita e Tiago. As a child, I lived 2 stories above a funeral home, and I spent my summers on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. And I need you to know that none of this is a metaphor. I need you to know that when I tell you My tia Madalena had a voice that sounded like 100 church bells, and that she washed my hair one July morning with fresh olive oil, that the olive oil was real, and so were her hands and my hair. I need you to know that this was another language for love, pouring a zait over a child's head and helping the strands gleam into the summer sunlight. Words are only air folded into sound, and I do not know how real they are anyway. I am not writing to you in the language my parents spoke as children. Our goodbyes are even half English, half Portuguese, a whole other language. What I am trying to say is what I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine my aunt, her voice 100 church bells, with lungs drowning in water that would not save her, a treatment that we knew would hurt but did not think would kill. I am unable to imagine her breath like that. I can only hear her voice calling my name, Carlinha, and I think every year I am losing someone who calls me by that name, whose tenderness was warm olive oil in my hair and not merely empty words and air. I am an ocean away when she dies, and my parents go to the house that is empty without her ringing voice. Tio Marcelino serves pão de ló, a cake of 5 ingredients and mostly air. The hands that make it need to firmly whip the egg whites and then gently fold them so the dough contains enough breath to rise. It is careful work. My father asks, "The cake is good, where is it from?" and then regrets asking. Tia made it the night before she died. And I wish this were all some kind of metaphor, because then it could be a bad poem and not a terrible truth. For a child who grew up only a few stories above so many funerals, I am an adult who is so childish about death. I keep making this story that I will go back one day to the home of those summer weekends in Le Rouge, that I will ring the bell only to hear her voice filling the air. Instead, we keep these echoes of her hands, working firm and gentle into a kindness that still cares for us, that still calls our names. Thank you. Hard to read that poem, but it's an important one for me. I mentioned in this poem and in a few others that I did in fact grow up above a funeral home, right in the Ironbound, and I feel like it really shaped my understanding of mortality at a young age. And so that could have gone in a few different directions, but I feel like for me, it just really it encouraged me young to just savor joy, right? So when things are good, to really appreciate them. And on that note, I'm going to take us to Pacific Street, just a little further down, to something that brings me a lot of joy, which are empanadas. These very specific ones in a place I have not returned to since moving back to Jersey in 2020. I lived in California for a little over half a decade, and then I came back in peak pandemic time, and I still haven't gone back to this empanada place because I'm not sure if they exist there anymore. So here's my ode to them. Ode to the empanadas on Pacific and Elm, with apologies to William Carlos Williams. Please forgive me. I did not ask the internet for permission to call it a bodega, the small corner market less than a 2-minute walk from the 3rd floor apartment on Pacific. No less than I was allowed to let my Cheeto fuzzed fingers fold over the pleats of my crisp maroon and gray skirt. In those days, I confessed my sins to a priest I was not sure would ever see heaven. How could he? Had he tried the empanadas from the corner market on Pacific and Elm? Fried, crispy corners enveloping ground beef, and yet the juices running. Was this not absolution? I believe in small and human graces, the pleasure of lunchtime in the crowded cafeteria, the salve of antibiotic on a skinned knee, water from the rusty faucet after the kickball game on the asphalt parking lot. Miraculous, those empanadas, and oh, they tasted good to me. They tasted good to me. Sorry, I am not sorry. That poem was partly inspired by Williams, partly inspired by a time where like people on the internet were getting mad at New Yorkers over calling things bodegas. It was an interesting time to be online. Um, so my next poem, let me see. So speaking of people being mad on the internet, this next poem was inspired by a tweet from one of the Sesame Street creators who had the audacity of going on the platform formerly known as Twitter to say that Bert and Ernie were not gay. He felt the need to say this, and I was really upset. Particularly as a teacher, I felt like this was just so unnecessary. And so I created this poem and I dedicated it to my students. It is called, in this poem, Bert and Ernie are gay, for my students. In this poem, Bert and Ernie are gay. They are not happy in the old-fashioned sense, and they are not Bert and Ernie. They are Bernie, if you're still searching for their ship name. In this poem, Bert and Ernie make out on fire escapes in the city's summer heat, and they go to pride parades, though Ernie has to drag Bert there with promises of porridge to follow. In this poem, Bert and Ernie get married, and Bert is actually the one who proposes with paper clips. Everyone on Sesame Street is invited, and they throw a block party so loud the cops are called. But in this poem, no one is arrested. Bert and Ernie share an apartment, a walk-in closet, and a bed. They are best friends with benefits, sex, healthcare, and marriage. They share stories of people who used to whisper and how they had to play pretend. In this poem, they are not imaginary. I would know since I made it. They exist happily, cooing to pigeons in the park, and at night, rubber duckies glow in the dark of their warm and cozy room. In this poem, Bert and Ernie are gay and beautiful and ordinary, and they are on your TV. Yes, the pigeons. Yes, Jared, pigeons. Very quintessential New York animal. So that poem was for my students. Like a lot of my poems. This next poem is both for my students and kind of co-created with my students. I wrote this. I know we have some fellow teachers in the audience, and particularly high school teachers, so y'all know what a prep period is. But for those of us not in the know, those are the exceedingly rare moments of the day that we're given to plan and grade. So I wrote this poem during one of my very rare prep periods, including things that my students actually said to me. It's called Today My Students Tell Me. Today my students tell me that I look like someone who never drives a car, that I look like I am someone who takes a train everywhere. And I love that they see me like this, the same way that I love that one day a student asks me, "Do you buy your clothes on EnglishTeacher.com?" When the truth is, I would if such a place existed. Another day, a student tells me that I seem like the kind of person who is good at tending plants, that I seem exactly like someone who would care for dying plants and maybe even heal them. Only I am the one adding maybe because they said it with such conviction, and another student agreed with them, like this was simple and true. And I laughed, told them they were wrong, that I wish I were more like my grandmother, who was, in fact, a tender of gardens and all green things. And what I don't tell my students is that I am so bad at taking care of anything, including myself. I don't tell them that their words, their kindness, unprovoked by anything, like when a student told me I smelled like waffles, and they wanted me to know that this was a compliment. This tenderness, even just this shared nodding of heads, that it takes care of me every day, that it keeps me like a garden. So I think I'm gonna go to the toad poem, and I feel I feel a little sneaky here because I have my two editors and they can tell you that the toad poem is not in the book. I needed to save, and here's the reason. I needed to save at least one poem for the second book, which is not yet written. This book took like a decade, so I'm feeling like the second one might too, so I wanted at least one poem I could hold on to and say, all right, here we go. I wrote this poem last November, not last November, November 2022. And a fun fact about the poem is that I wrote it in the same building where I first heard Lucille Clifton read when I was a high schooler, and then later that school year got to meet Ross Gay in person for the first time. So this is at the, yes, I know. The building itself is not my favorite on campus, and yet, so it kind of has a little poetic lore to it. I love reading this. So I feel like we're gonna end on this note, and I can't wait to hear everybody else read their poems. Okay, so this is also inspired by a post that I saw, I think posted by NPR on Instagram, that I was just scrolling through, saw this, and had a lot of questions. It is called "The National Park Service warns us to not lick the psychedelic toad. Please don't lick this psychedelic toad," National Park Service warns. I have a few follow-up questions. I want to hear first from those of you who are looking at toads, psychedelic or otherwise, and then think, time to lick that. I want you to know that I'm speaking from a place of great envy, even admiration. I, who am so cautious at taking even logical risks, like jumping feet first into a crystal clear lake on a summer day, or kissing a man who is my friend and whose lips I want to taste, or any other small and probably not fatal leap like those. But there are those of you out there who are licking toads. Can I meet you? Can we talk? I have so much to learn. Next, some questions for the National Park Service. You might think I want to ask you how you know a toad is psychedelic, but no, I want to know about this small kindness, this extension of yourselves beyond what I am sure is a daily cat's cradle of red tape routines into this gesture, telling others what you likely never imagined you would have to say. Please do not lick the toads, though they are beautiful, because I know personally how hard it is to deny simple risks that could yield pleasure, but only at the expense of perhaps great pain. In fact, really, I don't know what the consequences are for licking a psychedelic toad. You see, I am, I guess, a typical American who did not read past the headline, and also I am given to writing poems the way some people might be drawn to say, licking a toad despite its poison, so I wrote this instead. But National Park Service representative, whoever you are out there writing these public service announcements, I hope you see them for what they are: an act of care, a steady caution, the hand that holds the kettle. I have some questions for the frog, too. Namely, what's it like to be craved beyond logic, beyond caution? Thank you all so much.
Amazing, Carla. Amazing. Love the toad, but also all the poems that you read tonight were wonderful. If you haven't bought her book, buy her book. It's amazing. It's out now. It's available at River River. I'm going to find the link now and post it again. Thank
I
you.
got
so
you.
much,
Just put
Carla.
it in.
Cool. Thanks, Mitch. It's almost like we're a team. Which, before we get into the friends portion, that actually we're going to do a little NPR pause announcement. So part of tonight and probably the next month of pestering emails and texts and tweets and blue sky, whatever you call them. I don't like calling them skeets for some reason.
No, not Skeets. Nope.
Yeah, it's weird. But anyway, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be begging for money because NAWP is expanding. We got a new website. We got our own Zoom. We are Eventbrite, for some reason, is charging money to use. And have I covered everything? We're gonna get something else. I can't remember what it is. But anyway, money's all gonna go to these different projects. We're gonna be expanding the readings towards panels and salons and hosting, having guest hosts. And so what we're going to say before we get in that is, if you have enjoyed NAWP, if you've enjoyed not being at AWP with us monthly, providing you readings and want to see more of it and want to just help us out, you can donate any money or not to Mitch. We have his Venmo. Mitch, I'm going to ask you to post that in there.
Yep.
In the chat, he'll give you the information. And all the money is going to go into paying back these things that we're getting, but also any extra we're going to move towards honorariums for our readers, because it's been wonderful getting all of our Twitter friends, but we want to continue getting people involved. So that's my pitch for fundraising. I won't bore you anymore, and we'll transition now into our end friends portion. Our first friend tonight is Hannah Greco. Hannah, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to post your website so people can find you. Without further ado, you are up.
Thank you so much, Carla. Congratulations. That was amazing. And I'm so grateful to be here celebrating you and your amazing book. I can't wait to read it. I haven't had a chance to hold it in my hands yet. So very excited. I'm just going to read 2 poems because I felt I was going to read a little flash, but there's so much peer pressure from the poetry community. Y'all are a bunch of bullies and I can't help it. So I'm going to read some of my poems, just two of my poems. I appreciate this. This is what we call positive peer pressure. It's a good thing for prose people to force themselves to read their poems. So here we go. This first one is from a recent issue of Fairy Tale Review, and it's called If You Were Red Riding Hood. If you were Red Riding Hood and I found you, sniffed you out on the path with your basket, your cape, your soft hair, your pink-orange freckles lit by the sun piercing the canopy, and if I jumped out, held up my thick paws and clipped nails, opened my mouth wide to show not teeth but hunger, not teeth but patience, as you walked this forest over and over, as I smelled the wishes rising from your skin, smelled the jail smell of your life, of this routine of caregiving, of caring, of giving. And if I searched and found the red haloing your head, the fire of everything you wanted to be, everything your mother and grandmother and great-grandmother wanted you to be, if you cried out, but it wasn't fear, and then touched me, traced the pads of my palms and said, what big hands you have, said, you're so hungry, said, I used to fear this path, then I could finally tell you, I'm not really a wolf, and you'd run your fingers up my arms, dig the tips down through the fur to my skin and say, girls can be wolves too. If you reached up to my lips, pushing your hands into my mouth, if you said, take me someplace new, as I tried to whisper around you, my mouth full, as I tried to tell you, let the axe man come, I'll slice myself open. You'd hush me, widen my mouth, push in up to your elbows, crawl all the way inside, and I'd turn and run the both of us from these woods. And this last one is from Trampset. And I haven't read this in a while, so bear with me. It's called, While Talking to Your Doctor About the Lithium's Side Effects, I Hear You Emptying the Dishwasher Without Me Asking. When I flip back through this life 50 years from now, shrunken in a hospital bed, or tomorrow, laying in the wreckage of our minivan, it will be your face I see. The printout from the ultrasound, your thumb in your mouth, lips pursed, eyes squeezed shut, your face purple as the labor and delivery nurse slapped your feet, your heartbeat slowing, the doctor slicing and grabbing, tearing us in two. Your face, a reverse line of you shrinking from man to boy to baby to belly. It will be your face, months and then years, the dimple on your left cheek when you laugh, your spiky hair, the way you hold your hamster with a glove so you can love her, even with prickly toes, up to last night, when you tried the pad thai despite the peanuts on top because I asked you, please. Your face this morning, even when everything in this world is monstrous and I could hand you back the knife I took away and locked in the cupboard above the refrigerator, even then, your face is what I see. And what I hate is this world, the way the neighbors shake their heads, how bright the lights are to you, how the guitar strings screech when I switch chords and you run from the room. What I hate is how often you try to unlock the cupboard. I emptied the dishwasher. You come in to tell me. I'm sorry. Thank you all so much for having me. Thank you, and congratulations, Carla.
Amazing, Hannah. Our next friend is Kiara DeLello. Kiara, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be part of this. Carla, congratulations. I realized that I blinked and we've now known each other for 10 years, and it's unreal to just think about how you've been such a model to me, like this idea that I could be, I don't think I was even a teacher yet when we met, and now I'm a teacher poet, and it's so amazing to be in the company of teacher poets to celebrate this book. I pulled strings and saw an advance copy, and I'm so excited for this book. So definitely order it. And I wanted to read some poems that talk about teaching and ancestors and food and like those little daily joys that Carla, you are so good at capturing in your work. So if I run out of time, please tell me. But I'm going to go starting from a poem that's for my grandfather. This is Kutia. Picture a clod of boys in the dirt road clumped around him, stubborn root that he is, who set himself afloat in the mill run in a tin tub, got stuck and beat for it, but survived. See him there at the cross of the only two roads in his town. Ivan, read us the paper, unfurling the news by the wood shingle church. I've seen that crossroads, seen the mountains that resonate still in his chest as he spurs us into song on Christmas Eve, ringleader that he is. Sometimes I think Ukrainians are born knowing 4-part harmony. From his end of the table, he holds court, gives his blessings in Yuki, then English, so the spouses and grandchildren understand. At least I know the Our Father, the holiday Kolede. The bulbs in the chandelier glow golden, the tablecloth still white, rescued every year from someone's mushroom gravy or a stray spoonful of ruby borscht. We're older now, less prone to spill, and we let him pour us cognac, always in sherry glasses that he knocks back like it's serious business. He asks why I teach small children, why I'm no professor or ambassador, when I'm going to get a job at the UN, asks every time I see him when I'm getting married, every time flubs my partner's name. I never ask him why he would tell us the story of the mill run and not the newspaper. Never told him I'm here because of that boy who read the news to his friends who couldn't, who serves kutya every Christmas with the cookie plate, even though we all hate kutya, the mushy buckwheat, the cloying honey, who never says these were the same grains his father cast on the floor for little Ivan to kneel on after he almost drowned. So we survive to suffering. We survive to sweetness and raise up glasses and raise up thin paper walls. And then this poem is about 5 years old. It's definitely pre-pandemic teaching, which I now feel is an important thing to say. It's called Footprint. We circle our chairs for class meeting, and for the first time, it's one of my students who says, "Mix it up, we're gender segregated." They gesture and jabber, and after a 15-second starling-like interlude, they do. Whenever someone finds my travel mug abandoned on their desk, they lift it up and declare for the room, I wonder whose this is. I'm trying to be better about bringing the mug, about washing it so it does not develop a grease of old milky coffee between its watertight gears. I bring a different glass one to meetings, one that both adults and children have called cute. I don't know what makes a coffee cup cute. If it's size, then unfortunately I may merit the same label. This confirms my conviction that being taller would keep me from being lumped in with adjectives such as these. I'm trying to use less plastic, even though it is as easy as breathing. I will probably never be able to forget Ben Kingsley duct taping a plastic bag over his own head in the House of Sand and Fog, his last act of resistance. We say gasping like a fish, but that hardly covers the brutal, mute reflex of his body pulling against the plastic for air. Last year, I helped a student write a report about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. He was working on adding facts and details to strengthen his argument. Did you know it takes one plastic bottle 450 years to break down in the ocean? I wonder how he's doing this year. He never wrote as quickly as when he chose that topic. I can tell my class has turned a corner this year because now they say all genders instead of both genders without prompting. It's a small thing, but the kind that maybe sticks. They are always so good at coming up with ideas for how they can help save the planet. I need to make sure they know that recycling at home can't hurt, but we're going to have to crush a lot more than soda cans to stem the tide. If they remember one thing from this year, I think, walking to work with my overpriced coffee in hand, that wouldn't be a bad impact to have. It's the kind of thing I probably won't be able to gauge for a long time. The cumulativeness of plastic in seawater. The things I do each day knowing they will outlast me. To our MCs, is it okay if I read one more, especially a happier one? Okay. All right, this is called Shrimp, a love poem. It sounds like bickering, but I realize it's not. The couple shuffles just ahead of us toward the seafood department, one gesturing from captain's seat behind the cart's handlebar, and one leaning into the cold case. Get some salmon too. Where? Right there. Not the 8 ounces, get the 12. And it's the loving exasperation, my sudden certainty that they've done this 1,000, 10,000 times, that they've gone back and forth about whether to get the farmed shrimp or the wild, Which kind is the bad one, and why pay more when we could just peel them ourselves? By the time we are their age, there may not be any shrimp left tangoing in the trash-choked, superheated Pacific, and this store might be transformed to warehouse FEMA supplies for climate refugees. Our post-industrial town may be islanded by rising sea levels, and our house might sink into the creek on the next lot, but at least this is true. When I move to nudge you and quietly point out the couple, I find your eyes, and you are already looking at me, beaming, as we look with full hearts at what we hope against all odds to become. Thanks, everybody. Congratulations, Carla.
Thank you so much. Our next reader is Amarak Huey. Thank you, Amarak. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you to Jared and Mitch for hosting this. And Carla, so happy to be part of this celebration. I can't believe that it's been, I don't know, a year and a half in the making to get to this point with this book, for just from our end. And I know you've been working on it much longer than that. I'm proud that it's in the world and proud that we got to publish it. So thank you for the honor of that. I'm just going to read 2 prose poems. The first one is called Garfield minus Garfield. If you don't know, Garfield minus Garfield is an internet site where they have reprinted the Garfield comic strips, but they've removed Garfield and all his dialogue. So it's just John, mostly John, and sometimes Odie talking to himself, and it changes the mood and tone of the comic strip entirely. So this is Garfield minus Garfield. It has become a thing that every so often in America, the romantic texts and emails between 2 inappropriately involved people become public in the wake of a scandal. Without fail, they are humiliating to read. The worst kind of obituary for a love affair. Someone else's hunger matters only if there's at least the possibility it's directed at you. In the absence of actual desire, our attempts to express desire are banal as a dry sink in an empty apartment behind a dying wall in a Midwestern suburb that used to be a field where pheasants nested. If you remove the cat from the comic strip about the cat, the result is nihilism, a sad man talking to himself about death. If you remove the moon from a love poem, is it now an elegy? Or it was elegy from the start? And then this one is called, Why is one side of a V of birds always longer? It has more birds in it. Saturday and cold sunshine and a crooked check mark of Canada geese veers low overhead noisily. They bark and glide and shape themselves. River, rope ridge, narrative arc. The goose at the foremost point, would that be crisis? Climax, crossroads, whatever, the bird wearies, its turn as leader complete, slides back toward one of the ends. Resolution, catalyst, it's hard to keep track. Stories begin, they end, they overlap like seasons. The last time you touched me, I jumped, bit my tongue, the blood warm against my teeth. Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. What a pleasure to be part of this event.
Thank you. Our next reader is Adi Tsai.
Hi, everyone. So excited to celebrate Carla and this incredible achievement, and also to be in community with people who I love and admire so much. So I'm just going to read a couple of poems, but both of them have some formal things that I want you to see. So I'm just going to share my screen so you can see them. It said disabled. Can you give me sharing ability? Said that it was disabled.
It is not disabled on my end, and I'm not sure how to.
Yeah, it says host disabled.
Let me see.
Or can you just make me a co-host for
Did
5 minutes?
did that work?
Yes, thank you.
Cool.
Okay. How not to sit in a canoe. So this was written to be read from any order, but I'll read it in particular order just for us to have something. How not to sit in a canoe. You, a child, but not child enough to be forgiven your sin. Who among you doesn't understand how to sit on a vessel made for it? You've always yearned to live that white fantasy of summer camps away from adults, swimming in the open water, skidding bikes across dirt in the night when the counselors sleep, holding new love behind the wisps of trees. This isn't that. This is your abuser who terrifies you, and uncles who stroke your face while they stare, and boys you want to buddy who want to kiss you, and aunties whose language you wish bloomed in you. You're first. You're always first. You sit down, following the imprecise line from finger to wood. It is wrong. You are wrong. Aunties and uncles and baba and stepmother yell and yell and yell. The ringing makes everything meaningless. You are proud for all the desires they can't see. Hands cupping ears, your own screaming to whiten theirs, your feet beating the ground away, away. You have always mastered the art of composure. The yelling, chaotic drips on top of your brain, which used to be its own painting. You, a child, but not child enough, sit on the bottom, yours damp from the leftover rain or the lake, which you wish to become. You are wrong, so the wish evaporates with the sun. You didn't think it possible, but you made the ringing worse. No small feat. It finally occurs to Auntie to demonstrate. She is too late. The canoe has filled, and you just dream and dream and dream to sink into sediment, become sea or stone. Okay, and this is the last poem I'll read. Thank you so much for having me. Dissociation, an arsenal of poetica. I'm asked to write an essay about my relation to attention. I insert the word dissociate. An editor encourages me to describe it physically, a consolation to his worry my usage treats an extraordinary occurrence as a matter of course. I try to imagine, albeit briefly, a life in which my brain would feel safe enough to remain stationed. This is in itself a kind of dissociation, a departure from the moment at hand when the present offers a sensation beyond the brain's capacity. Some days later, I am compelled to negotiate dissociation on the page. It is an imperfect problem. In order to effectively chart it, one would have to interject the unwanted and unpredictable static that causes it, a particular combination of sounds in a chamber boomeranging against cement instead of cushions, an interaction, read person, with an undefinable list of attributes socially insistent, so many words with no blank in between, a facial confrontation that requires a constant cascade of masks you hope you've built in your closet of skins, to name a few. It is not enough to display the archive, for that includes a certainty that doesn't apply. You out of it, Gwai Gwai? Laughing. Are you even paying attention to me? At the book fair, I felt you didn't care to talk to me or forgot me. Where are you? Where are you? It's fine. I can tell you aren't here. Leon Lee says in a workshop, the speaker is using artifice to distract from what is too catastrophic to address directly. When the border between wholeness and dust pervades, my brain hurtling through time, steel tube suspended in air, but going nowhere, as far as I know. Between presence and absence, held captive. I can imagine that everyone experiences such a state differently. So I think you might try to explain what you mean by dissociate. What does this feel like? How does the mind operate in a state like this? I worry that this sentence takes such an extraordinary occurrence as a matter of course. If my head is O and my hand is bracket, bracket O, 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 bracket O. The question, what does dissociating feel like, is a bubble. I try to catch it, but each time I try, it pops and pops and pops. The definition, a mental process of disconnecting from one's thoughts, feelings, memories, or sense of identity, asserts an agency where there is none. No metaphor is sufficient because a metaphor roots one in the physical world when one only feels absent from the body, the air inside a balloon. But you see what I did there? The metaphor, an anchor where none is found. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. Thank you so much. Our next reader is Han Vanderhart. Thank you, Han, for joining us.
Thank you, everyone, for these amazing poems. I am sitting here, like I said, with a big, beautiful stack of Carla's beautiful books. Amorak, I owe you your copies. So, yeah, and also don't like ever let anyone tell you poetry is light, because I took 100 books to the post office this weekend. They were not light. I was just looking at Carla's poem, Ode to the Semicolon, earlier. Also, this is my ADD, but I'm doing a list of odes, like books that really engage odes and praise poems. And if you think of a title you want to recommend to me, let me know. And I think it's like something really beautiful that comes out in Carla's work, as there are so many odes in this book. But Ode to the Semicolon, it also reminds me of Stephanie Burt, one of Carla's teachers, has the incredible lines towards the end: opener of spaces and fields of grammar, by what power do you move my tongue, my eyes, and measure my beats? So, I mean, I just thought you should hear those lines. And buy Carla's book, of course. Okay, I had two poems. I'm not going to read them. You know how you kind of had to go with your mood, and I was like, those are the poems. No, they were not. One of them is called Happy Easter, You Son of a Bitch. And it's just was too hard for tonight. I was like, it's kind of a celebration poem. That's what I told the magazine that's publishing it for their celebration issue. So I'm gonna read two softer poems. The first one is an ekphrastic after the film Desert Hearts, which is a 1985 lesbian love. I don't say poem, but it's a film. Okay. Desert Hearts. Flying backwards down the highway, blue shirt knotted at the waist. When desire hunts, she says, I'm interested. Casino, bath, dance. The soft bisexual lighting at Pyramid Lake. Kissing through an open car window in the rain. When you ask your love for something, make it small. Not for all their life, but from the train, 40 more minutes with you. And the next one is called Eavesdripping, which I don't love as a title, but it's there right now. And I've been reading the book Rabbit Hutch. I think that's the title. Sane novel. Amazing. If you're into women saints and migraines and just, it's incredible. It's wild. Okay, so Rabbit Hutch is a plug. Eavesdripping, wind at my neck, summer thunder. Your open mouth distracting me. Hooks on the side of a house. Hildegard of Bengen's Theology of Viriditas. The greening of things from within. Magnolias like spilled cream. This monthly ovulation, which makes me want to rub myself on the world like a cat on her back, or the door jamb, your leg, your book's edge. You need me, wrote Sexton, until I rise like bread. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna start us off into our planned open mic. It's not exactly free for all here. We have people that have signed up for it. And our first reader I'm gonna put on the spot here is Mitch has agreed to read something that he recently published in Had. Mitch, you ready?
Sure. All right. This was December 26th in Had. It I love that Han pointed out like you often switch like what you would read, and there's been several prose poems, so this is more or less a prose poem. It's called Bourbon in a Santa Mug. One time, when the kids were smaller, we came home early from a New Year's party at our friend's place because the boys were too little to stay up late. And in those days, C often fell asleep next to whichever boy she was on that night. Me, I'd stay upright, sing a lullaby. Bill Withers was a good go-to. Then sneak out on tiptoes, avoiding creaky floorboards once they snored. And so I found myself alone in the soft green reading chair, cold outside, dark like the inside of a worn blanket you found in the closet one time when you realized you were old enough to just go find an extra blanket when you were cold, when you were big enough to not call for mom and just find a blanket. And it was dark and it was warm. And I sat in the reading chair that night, a light snow through the window, and I'd poured 2 fingers of bourbon into a Santa mug, and I put on Being there. And I swear to you, I swear it timed out perfectly that right as the clock finally struck midnight, and I mean right as the clock struck midnight, I got you at the end of the century, hit that climax crash after the fake ending. And I knew I'd be up in another 2 hours to settle a crying kid and to fret again. But then, at that moment, I had you, and 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 you had me too. For the non-Wilco fans, that's a Wilco song and album.
Thank you, Mitch. If you like Mitch and his beard and his poetry, feel free to feel free to donate to NAWP so that we can do more of this showcasing of his amazing talent. So I'm actually gonna read one of mine, and again, that whole what everybody's talking about is which one to read. I had a prose poem ready from all the way back, and then I was like, no, I'm gonna read one of my new ones. And to do that, to borrow off of Addie here, I'm gonna try to share something that helps us go along here. See if I can share my screen. Nope, it's going to be too much of a pain in the butt to share a specific thing. So I'm going to share a link. That'll be easier. So I have been writing some ekphrastic poetry that is about climate change, and my first book is about climate change, and I'm trying to write a second manuscript about that stuff. And I also really love writing ekphrastic. So why not go to one of the most well-known paintings that have been written about. This is the landscape of the fall of Icarus, which Auden made famous in his poem. And this is a poem that I'm trying to write this series of poems like, what would happen if these landscapes were actually affected by climate change? What does that do to both the image and then how we interpret the image? And so this is the title of the poem is called Flooded Landscape with the Fall of Icarus. There is water, insistent with need. There must be meaning too, so call it ice, call it solid, then calving, buoyant in a sea that does not know itself, only that it wants. Hold me, be held, lay waste. It is easy to give. The taking, a hand reaching across the space of a bed. Forget me, it says. I forget that a hand is shaped by what it holds. Be done with me. What is enough? This coast, each collapse, banks failing, claimed by rushing water, what we value is a matter of risk and desire. Give something beautiful. Call it sacrifice, insurance, a nice view, the plowman's broken fields, or a fox's burrow, the hollow where a plover sat with wings stretched in mourning. A tree grows in spite of salt and wind, a stick for the shepherd, long since fleeced by the marshes. I want to make a claim, have it all taken in the surge. I once taught a girl to paint the ocean with pastels, which is how I learned that even the sea can bleed, an open mouth. The forecast calls for rip currents, a body carried well past the breakers. I'm trying to swim, elbows and wrists angling above the swell. What do you value? The sea rises without intentions. I'm no longer sure of the parallels here. Whichever way we turn towards disaster. Catch and pull, movement, a proof of life in spite of how it looks. Each stroke parts the wind's menace. There was a city here once. A mountain plummets an elbow, white as an iceberg, dips below the surface. We did not want this. Where the shore surrendered to the tide, I kept kicking. Thanks, everybody. Our next reader is Kevin Risner. Thanks, Kevin.
I was having trouble unmuting myself. Hello, everyone. Congratulations, Carla. It's exciting to have your book out. I'm excited to get it. It's so great to just see everyone here and sharing their work. It's been a wonderful evening so far. I'm going to see. I didn't really know what I was going to read. I had so many ideas, and I think I might just read the first poem in my last chapbook. I'll do us a favor, and there's a lot of excerpts from a few of David Bowie's songs in there, but I'm not going to read them as he would be singing them, although it's very tempting. You just don't want me to do that. So yeah, this is titled "We've Got 5 Years." We got 5 years. Oh, what a surprise. David Bowie's a prophet. The 5-year countdown started early on in 2016 when he flew back to Mars. Then, that June, the Cavaliers won an NBA championship. We should have been on the alert when that happened. We should have known we'd been bumped off the proper timeline. We left Cleveland on a belated honeymoon trip to Canada. The Republican National Convention barreled through 2 days after we left. We'd escaped. We meandered the streets of Montreal instead, eyes on the sky and eyes on summer. One night, I ate duck, she ate filet. We shared a bottle of white wine. Next afternoon, we climbed Mont Royal, inched closer and closer to Nova Scotia. We sank into beach chairs in the afternoon of one of the hottest Julys in the province's history. We should have stayed there. We should have dug our feet in the sand, planted them so we could blast off into the sky with no need for jetpacks. You know what's wild? We really would have met the Starman up there. He'd have blown our minds as he belted every word out through open space, orbiting phrases such as, "I'm an alligator. I'm a mama papa coming for you. I'm the space invader. I'll be a rock and rollin' bitch for you." We'd reach the perfect locale in due time where the spiders from Mars would still pitch stakes in our souls. They'd be hosting an end-of-the-world party. I think we would lose it there, to see them all together again, to see us all in one place, suns struck, suns stuck in our eyes, see ourselves swimming in the champagne of lost galaxies, floating and remembering every single thing about this godforsaken world. The rest is just a blip in the here and now. And now, even now, give me your hands. Give me them. 'Cause you're wonderful and you're not alone. Give me your hands and we'll be the brightest we've ever been. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Our next reader is Deanna Beachley.
Hi, everyone. Carla, I'm so delighted to be here and to hear you read from your book. I can't wait to get it in my hands. Yes. So the poem I'm going to read is from my forthcoming chapbook, The Long View. It should be out sometime in May. It's called Notes from an August Wildflower Walk in Tuolumne Meadows, with a line from Lee Young Lee. It starts with white yarrow, Achillea millefolium, a compound cluster, herbal militaris, flowers and leaves stanch wound. Many members of the sunflower family, goldenrod, aster, even sagebrush. Yeah, of white flowers, roots and seeds nourish. We meander like the river from one side of the wide path to the other as we find small bunches of blooms, sweet, impossible blossoms. Petals, souls reveal the family. Wild strawberry has 5 because they are in the rose family. Iris and lily, multiples of 3. Evening primrose, 4. Interrupted by chainsaws as crews remove the creep of lodgepole pines to stanch the flow of climate change. We stop for pussy toes, ground smoke, alpine gentian, huddle as the plants do. Our ranger shared with us peaches are roses too. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. Our next reader is Candace Kelsey.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Mitch, Jared, and Carla. So I've been in therapy for a while, and I don't know about you, but in addition to a fortune in copays, it's generated quite a few poems, like this one, which appeared in Only magazine. And it's titled, "Tonight, my therapist shows me how to give myself a hug." When I tell her sometimes I push myself too hard in a workout, elevate my heart rate because I want to induce cardiac arrest and be found slumped over the handlebars of my Peloton, a pathetic waste of bone and flesh and sweat clipped into a worthless life of pedaling nowhere, she explains I need to self-soothe in those dark moments, and she pushes back from her screen to show me one strategy she likes. First, you stretch your right arm, palm facing out, then your left, and clasp together. For a moment there we stand, 2 middle-aged women on a telehealth call doing some behaviorist hokey pokey, trying to turn my life around. When she says, now scoop your hands into your body, up to your chest, and squeeze yourself tight, we smile at each other and hug ourselves a surprisingly long time. Her, pleased to give the gift of touch, and me, imagining myself forever in this position, 6 feet under. Speaking of needing therapy, I spent the fall helping my very unrealistic 17-year-old son shop for his first car. I'm happy to report all we ended up with was this poem, which appears in the current issue of Blue Mountain Review. This is Cars Poetica. Imagine a world where automobiles are not named after endangered animals, virtues, and forces of nature. The Tahoe is no mirror glass lake of green. The avalanche doesn't tremble or threaten mortal drifts. And honestly, the leaf? Why can't I fall into an anthologized sunset orange sonnet, drive off the lot waving farewell to the balladeer salesman singing an ABAB Blue Book meter? Perhaps lease a Pantoum and always make perfect time, or finance the metallic gold Sistina, 6-wheel drive, and sleek Envoy with such great lines. Truth is, I'd rather bike a haiku's syllabic gear switch 3rd to 7th to 3rd, wheels like seasons turning through, Kigo, cherry blossoms and snow. I'd coast, Correggi, hands off the bars, cutting the moon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next reader is Trapper Markells.
Thanks everybody for having me. I'm going to read one poem. As a father, I have 4 kids. First one's going off to college. The last one's entering junior high. So the opportunities to save your kids becomes less and less. And this poem is about an opportunity I had to save my daughter one day. The title of the poem is a text that she sent me. And that text was, "Dad, don't get mad. I forgot my binder. So sorry. Can you bring it? Please." I read each letter in sequence, sighing, contemplating sinister, eyes willing, thumb waiting over the letter Y. In my daydream, her eyes watch 3 dots parade in slow motion, blinking back at her with the dread of a 6 a.m. school alarm clock. With a press of send, I gather up her blue binder, its purple patterned pencil carrier, engorged meal of math worksheets, an ancient Civ essay outlines, language templates, permission slips, lunch schedule, locker combination. Hand to key, key to lock, foot to brake, park to drive down Mass Ave with angry commuter brake lights, red lights, one-way streets lined with parking permit rights of who stays and who obeys, temporary public spaces, obeys police security cameras, tempts the good graces of a public school system built out of pedestals. Family name relayed, and that binder is shuttled away like a well-used floppy disk with curling sticker, all its secrets delivered to a tortured daughter who had to bring bad news on a brilliant fall morning when the colors of the leaves matched the color of her cheeks, lined with stress tears that will dry into a smile by the time she gets home. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next reader is Anne McDowell Wagner.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this whole evening, and congratulations, Carla. I'm going to read a hybrid piece that was in Miracle Monocle, and it's called The Animals. They are not like the other animals, your lethargic, long gone pets, the up all night roosters of Phnom Penh, the apprehensive deer surrounding the Maryland boarding school, rats in downtown LA, and everywhere. What were you expecting here? Lions on a plane? Zebras and gazelles? Floppy-eared baby elephants? Addis Ababa is frigid, sodden, not the Africa you were taught. Donkeys graze within the traffic circle like it is where they belong. A man herds what must be 40 goats down the street next to the metro line, their coats marked with foretelling red paint. A big one glares with reproach as it trots by. Does it understand the muddy slaughter lots? Hyenas, a distinct sound, definitely not laughing. What do you know aside from the Lion King? You hear them at night in rare, quiet moments between ceaseless, amplified chanting from somewhere you've never identified. Their glowing eyes have tracked you once or twice, but you mostly feel their presence by the morning's licked clean bones. That day you meet a friend in another part of town, cold, as always, foolish in the wrong clothes you brought. Sitting on the patio of a modern coffee shop, a herd of cattle round the corner in front of you. To where, you wonder, but not for long anymore. After goodbyes, you pull up the ride app, smelling the impending rainstorm, earthly, inhospitable. When suddenly, crossing into the street, a glare on the snow-white stallion is in front of you, an epiphany, backlit by the late afternoon sun. Abandoned, you think. Wild, he assures. He pauses, judging you, Then shaking his mane, he bolts. Thanks.
Thank you, Anne. Our next reader is Nicole, and before she gets on, I think, Nicole, you've summoned Ren has entered into the room. One of the reasons we have NAWP is because we have children who come into readings. Yes, Ren. She wrote a poem yesterday, and I just want to say it was really awesome, and it's about love, and it's about a tree that falls in love with a mantis, which I don't know how that works, but it worked in her poem, and it was pretty good. I'm proud of her. So I'm gonna let Nicole read her poem while I handle parenting things.
Okay. I'm willing to yield my time to Ren if you'd like.
Do you want to just say hi?
Hi, Ren.
Say
I
hi.
love that you're writing poems, and I'm really excited that you stopped by this reading. And your dad is amazing, and he's doing such great things for poetry. So you should give him a really big hug right now.
Okay.
Okay?
Thanks, Nicole.
So, it's an honor to be here with all of you. So many beautiful poems and such great community tonight. I'm just going to read something short. I have a newish book out. It's called Versace, and from ELJ Editions, which is also Jared's publisher. So it's amazing to be at the same press as Jared. And I'm gonna read The Velvet Room. In 5th grade, I carried a grape scratch and sniff sticker in my pants pocket wherever I went. I also carried a copy of a heavy faded book the school librarian reserved especially for me. Mrs. Woodward reminded me of a mouse being chased by an owl. Someone said something about her living with another woman. We weren't supposed to speak of it, although no one ever told me that directly. My sticker became my bookmark. By winter, my book smelled like an old vineyard. Even now, if I close my eyes, the curtained room, velvets and purples. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicole. Our next reader is Robert Van Vliet.
That's me. Hi. Congratulations, Carla. I'm looking forward to seeing your book. And like with a lot of people, I've been like, I read off pieces of paper, and I have like a stack of papers here that I've printed out of things that I'll read this. No, I shouldn't read that. That's stupid. I'll read this instead. So I've got a poem here that I'm going to be reading from my book that's coming out this December. Lots of debut poets, I think, this evening. It's not exactly a laugh riot, this poem, so, strap in, I guess. The book, none of the poems have titles, so this is just 12, 24, 25, and 42. So, no repose can cure your weariness. For this reason, she is held to have said, I am green, and I am what is not green. I am the tongue, and I am what the tongue cannot say. I am the sun, and I am the sun's shadow. And whenever you appear, I will hide from you. Sorrow endures longer than memory. For this reason, she is held to have said, I am the tree, and I am the cleansing ash it yearns for. I am the mountain, and I am the weather that will throw it down. You can never give enough to repay what you owe. For this reason, she is held to have said, I am the song, and I am the silence. I am what you must learn, and I am what no one can teach. I am the mouth, and I am the cry. I am the pavement you lie on, and I am the knee that holds you there. I am the blood, and I am the ear that listens to the blood. I am the one who stands, and I am the one who runs. I am the liberator, and I am the one bound to the stake. I am forgiveness and vendetta. I am the judgment and the acquittal. And whenever you hide, I will appear. And I should have prefaced that by saying that I wrote that poem while we were waiting for the jury to come back on the Derek Chauvin trial. At the time, I lived in Minneapolis, so we were. It was a very stressful time when I wrote that. And I'm going to read a second one that I feel is a little less hopeless, but also not exactly a laugh riot. It will not come by waiting for it. Does this anger you? Do you want to fight against the implications? It is not like the dawn filling the sky with yellow smoke. That is someone else's prayer, burning like flesh every morning. And you cannot simply call it to you. It is not a matter of saying, here it is, or there it is. You must build it. And you must build it again. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Robert. So one of the things as a host I'm always really scared of is mispronouncing names. So I ask in when people sign up to say how to pronounce their name. And our last reader tonight is Donna, as in Madonna. And I thought I should share that. It's Donna Voyer, who is an amazing poet and artist. And I'm so happy that she's here. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you. Well, people usually ask how to pronounce Voyeur, so I just thought I'd throw in there how to pronounce Donna. Congratulations to Carla. I can't wait to get your beautiful book. Thanks to all of you for your beautiful readings tonight. Like everybody else, I've changed my mind about what I was going to read. But since I'm often the last reader alphabetically, I believe it's really important to end any reading on joy or love, to kind of leave us on the right note. And hopefully this poem, it's new, gets in a lot of the things that other poets were talking about this evening. Resolution. Each day I will learn to love something new about the world. Finally listen to the whole Japanese house album instead of just that one song. Revel in a 2-second hold of crow pose in yoga. There are cities waiting for me to walk their streets, eat their cuisines. I remind myself daily to add a small drip of knowledge to my rain barrel brain, where anyone could drop a stone and be splashed with 70s song lyrics to The Night Chicago Died, random lines from Elf, maybe even the rap I wrote for my 6th graders about Galileo the year they were obsessed with Hamilton. Each day I will stack a precarious cairn to honor being alive. Climb up my mountain of failures to find the purest, cleanest snow at the peak. The moon keeps watch to ensure I'm keeping these promises. And if I haven't loved anything else that day, its silver face will check the box as it waxes and wanes itself new each night, illuminates your face, the only love I do not need to learn. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you, everyone, for being here. One more round of applause for Carla and her amazing debut. This was wonderful tonight. Everybody really brought their A game. It's wonderful to bring everybody together and have this sense of community, which is exactly, we joke about the FOMO, but really NAWP has been for us a way to bring people together and to see faces to names that we, really only see next to 140 characters at a time. And it's really nice to be together and spread our NAWP together. Stay tuned. We're gonna have a bunch of events in a few weeks around AWP, so we can pretend that we're cool at the same time as all of you wonderful people are having fun networking in real life. And then we'll definitely continue our monthly readings. Thank you so much for being here. It was lovely.
Ditto. Thank you.